Welcome to the Clapper Racing YouTube channel. Realize that I've never actually gone over most of what this car consists of. For starters, it's a 1987 Mazda RX-7 base model is what it started life out as. When I bought the car for 700 bucks from Hillsboro, North Carolina, from a guy up there. I was sitting in his backyard. He had bought the car to pull the motor out and put it in his FB that he had, RX-7. And if you're not familiar with that term, it's the generation before this car here. And I bought that car, and I also bought at the same time a Turbo 2 parts car. It was a full car except for the engine. It didn't have the engine in it. And I bought it for 700 bucks also, and I swapped both subframes and rear end and all that stuff in here. And at the time, it was still a turbo rotary car. Well, I blew up 2 of those motors, and I ended up selling the car because I broke my leg and was getting through college. So I sold the car, bought it back. This was in 2009 when I sold it, and I bought it back in 2016 from the guy I sold it to. And him and his dad had dropped the motor and transmission in and done a few things, but I redid everything and got it back to the way I wanted it. And it was NA for a little bit, and then I ended up turboing the car. And I always wanted to do a turbo setup on LS, and so I decided to just go ahead and do it. And here we go. This is what I got. But for starters, it's a stock, bone stock LS1 with a LS1 intake manifold. It's intake to oil pan like you would get out of an F-body, except for the cam and the springs. It's got F-body accessories on it. It's got a ICT billet alternator bracket, because this car came factory with a manual rack, so I have no power steering. And it's got a VS Racing 7875 billet wheel turbo, and it's been flawless for me so far, and gonna keep running it until I max it out and go from there. But this is a Be Cool radiator, and I got it from Summit Racing, and it's part of their LS Swap series of radiators. I can't remember the part number, but it had straight out inlet and outlets, and I've had them redone and welded some angles out so it'll clear the turbo. Next turbo kit I build is probably going to have the turbo angled this way, but I didn't want to cut out any of these fender aprons. I wanted to keep it stock, and I wanted to do as little cutting as possible when I built this car. So that's how I built it. Everything's kind of crammed in here, but it works. And it's just got some heat sink truck coils on it, MSD wires, and the I think it's the BR7 EK plugs, and they're gapped at like 0.28 maybe, something like that. And it's pretty, I've had no issues out of gapping them really small like that. And as you can see, I've got this regulator on here. It looks like an Airmotive, but it's actually a China regulator, and it's serves its purpose. But I've got that, and I've got 6AN line to the factory metal feed line, and it goes back all the way to the pump with 6AN and a 6AN return. And I have a Walbro 450 in-tank pump in the back, and the stock sending unit and housing, and it's in the stock tank, no sump or nothing. And I have Siemens Deca 80 fuel injectors, and pretty budget fuel system, but I don't come close to running out of fuel on pump gas. But if I ever put it on E85, it might be a different story. The fan is out of a Volvo, I think it's out of a Volvo wagon, and I have it hooked to the Mega Squirt with pulse width control, and I have a video on the channel about how I did that. And it's a really good option for people that need a lot of cooling and doesn't want to put a huge strain on their alternator when starting up a big cooling fan like that. And the car has got original paint, original 30-year-old paint, and the body's pretty much all stock. And the wheels, they're Champion billets. The rears, I have some beadlock rear Champions for the track, but these are actually Jegs wheels. They're 15x8s on the rear Jegs and 5.5 back spacing, which is the same as my rear Champion beadlocks, but these were a lot cheaper, and I just wanted something cheap to run on the street, so I wasn't tearing up my bias plies all the time. But these are factory single piston brakes, and I had the 4-piston turbo 2 brakes on there, but they wouldn't clear these wheels. And these are 15 by 3.5 with a 1.75 back spacing. And there is skinny wheels that you can buy for these cars that will fit turbo 2 brakes, but these were not one of them. And I wanted to be a little different. I didn't want to just throw welds on it like everybody else does, so that's what I did. And the hot side of this turbo kit, I built all the turbo kit myself. It's just mild steel, and it's a 3-inch downpipe that goes into it's a single 3-inch that goes all the way to about midway of the car, and then it splits off into 2.5s. But that's really about it as far as the car goes. It's got a Mega Squirt Gold Box ECU that I've put on there and tuned myself, and it's relatively easy to tune if you have a little bit of patience and do a little bit of research. But it's pretty simple. The car's got 2 Emusa 38mm wastegates on it, and there's a view of it there. There's 2 of them on there, and they're wide off of my boost controller solenoid, which is there, and I can turn it up and down with the computer, and it's pretty works pretty good. Doesn't get any crazy spikings or anything like that. And I'm trying to think what else I can go over here. The intercooler is a 3-inch VS Racing intercooler. They sell 2 different ones. They sell a 3-inch and a 3.5-inch thickness, and I bought the 3-inch because there's not a whole lot of room on the front of this car, but the 3-inch goes in there pretty good. You've probably been following the rear end, which is now a 8.8 out of an Explorer differential, and works pretty good. It's got a drive shaft shop. It's a 8.8 Ford differential IRS with drive shaft shop axles and just ARP studs in it, and the axles come with the hubs to allow you to run bigger splined axles, and just a little bit more strength and a little bit more able to take your drag racing abuse. But other than that, that's really all that's to this car. It's a pretty simple build, and if you have any questions about it, I guess ask them in the comments. But that's going to be it for this video here. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you later. That's how yours my exhaust off with her two-step escapades here. So I'm here in a parking lot, stuck here with nothing but an adjustable wrench. What a pain. This exhaust is back on, tightened up. What a pain.